Hi, my name is Juliana Smith. I'm a junior entrepreneurship major at Grove City College. Amanda and I have been best friends since high school, so she asked me to talk a little bit about my hopes, my dreams, and how to shine for Christ in college. So for hopes and dreams as an entrepreneurship major, I eventually want to start my own business, but that's not something I immediately want to do now. That's something that's I'm looking forward to, is like a retirement plan. I'm hoping to be more of a mom and have kids, and that's kind of my immediate dream, and then eventually, maybe start my own business. So that's kind of my hopes and dreams. So I go to a school called Grove City College, which is a Christian private school. So shining for Christ in college looks a little bit different to me because most of my classmates and peers know about Jesus and know who Jesus is. So there's not a lot of sharing what the gospel is to these people, because even if they aren't believers, they generally, grew up in a Christian home for the most part. So shining for Christ looks a lot more as to me as living as a Christian and setting a good example, because I think a lot of people at my school may claim to be Christians, may claim to know Jesus, but they don't necessarily live out their personal lives that way. They might look like that outwardly, but inwardly, they're, like Pharisees, where they have the outward appearance of being a good Christian, but they have the inward heart of still an unbeliever. So in some ways, that's actually harder to reach than a normal unbeliever would be, because there's not that knowledge gap there. They know all the right things to say and they know all the right things to do. So something that's kind of been challenging for me lately, is trying to figure out how to minister to people like that, how to even figure out whether or not they are believers, and how to interact with them based on that. So my main go-to is mostly to live as a Christian, and also, follow the moral principles, do as I say I should do, live out the way that Jesus showed Christians that they should live out. But I also believe that it's really important to tell people when you mess up and to be open about your mistakes and your own past and sins, because if you're able to do that, that opens up conversations that you wouldn't normally have, because at Christian conservative schools, there's often a culture of everybody is, Mrs. and Mr. Perfect. And I think if you break down that barrier, you can have a lot better conversations and minister to people better that way. So as far as how to live this out practically, it might look different for different people. For me, living out practically shining for Christ looks a lot more like having honest conversations with friends and strangers. If somebody comes up to me and asks me if I'm okay, and I'm not actually feeling great that day, I'm not just going to say, yeah, sure, I'm fine. I might say something more like, oh, well, I've been having a rough day, and this test didn't go as well as I thought. And just being an honest person and not setting a false persona out for people to perceive. I also think this is something that you can easily apply in your living situation. So if you're in college and you have a roommate, they're probably going to know you better than anyone else. And I think you should live the same way you do with your roommate, with your guard down, as the same as when you leave your dorm room and talk to your other friends. I think you should just be authentic and through in all situations. As far as another way that I shine for Christ is me and my boyfriend make it a very habitual thing to go to church and to talk to people after church and to be involved in ministry. And I think that's something very important to do in school. And it's very easy, especially if you don't go to a Christian school where there's not an expectation of going to church. It's very easy to fall off of that bandwagon, and that can lead to a lot of other difficulties in your life. I think the most important thing to do to shine for Christ is to renew that fire that you have for him every week by going to a Bible preaching church. Shining for Christ is important to be authentic and be yourself, and also to keep up with spiritual disciplines. I want to thank Amanda for asking me to do this. It's something that's challenging to me. I'm not one that's always very outspoken about my faith. I usually just kind of live it, and I don't have these conversations, but it's super helpful to be able to minister to you guys. Thank you.